Hello, this is old Mr. Kent of MrKent.com, and that's Bo and Mo, a couple of the goats that my son and his family have out here on their little miniature farm where my wife and I have moved to stay. And so I didn't mean to scare them, but that's how it worked out. So, my last video, I explained that the road that we use to get into town is closed, and they're doing some construction, and I flew down there, and they were just starting to dig a trench across the road very carefully, looking for something. And I thought, well, it's been a couple of days. I think we'll go fly down there again and see what's going on, what the progress is. And in the meantime, while we're getting there, I'll tell you another one of my stories. Now, I'm running out of flying stories that are of any interest. So I thought you might be interested in hearing how I started college. Yes, I went to college, and I grew up in Seattle, Washington. And my mom and dad, I wanted to go to Bible school. They didn't want me to go to Bible school, and they said they'd pay my way if I went to any other school. So I thought, well, okay, because nobody in my family had ever been to college at this point. And in fact, my mom, she wanted me to be a doctor, and so she wanted me to take, and I could care less about being a doctor back then, and still do, but she wanted me to take 2 years of Latin in high school. Now, I'm glad I took it because it's a good backup for English, but anyway, I got passing grades, and that's all I'm going to say. So, well, I got to be a senior, and it was time for me to graduate and find a college. And so I was, at the time I was dating this girl whose name was Linda. In fact, I still have a picture of her. And we were good friends, and one day I was sitting at the dining room table at her house, and we were visiting, and brought up the subject of going to college. And I said, I gotta figure out where to go to college. My folks want me to go to college, and they'll pay the way. And she said, oh, well, I sent for an application to Western Washington State College, and I'll give you that if you want to fill that out. I said, okay, that sounds easy to me. And so I took it home, filled it out, mailed it in, and guess what? They accepted me. So that is how Mr. Kent picked his college. And, it's just like, that's just how it was. So nobody in my family knew anything about college. So I had a college, and finally came the day to drive up from about 100-mile drive from Seattle up to Bellingham, Washington. And so my Aunt Chloe and my grandma and my mom and dad and I, we got in a car and we went up there. And they had already signed me up to live in the dorm and everything. So got me all signed into the dorm, and we hugged and said goodbye, and they drove off. And here's old Mr. Kent. He's at a college that he doesn't know anything about. So came the day to register and get my classes and so forth. And so and back then, remember now, there was no computers. Everything was on paper. Math was done on paper. Everything was on paper. And so they had this big room where they had registrar people. They were sitting at tables, and they had these lines, A through D and E through L, and so on and so forth. And so I was smart enough to get into the right line. Now, here is what we saw the other day, where they were straight down. They were digging that trench across there. And if you look in the upper left corner, you can see the huge irrigation pipes that they've got running underground. And that found out that's what this project is to instead of having irrigation canals, they're going to run them underground because there's so much residential construction out here. So that's what they're doing. And I don't know if they're going to run it down our road or not, but anyway, so that's as far as they've gotten so far. Well, anyway, so they drove off, and I'm at college by myself, and came the day to register, and so I got in the right line, believe it or not. And finally got up after waiting, for, I don't know, probably half a dozen or so people in front of me. Got up to the registrar lady, and she said, what's your name? And I said, Kent Gunnison. And so she had this box full of probably 5x7 cards. They weren't 3x5, they were a little bigger than that, and she had some stuff already filled out. And she asked me, she said, all right, what are you going to major in? And I stood there and I said, what does that mean? Remember now, nobody in our college had ever gone to college, or in our family had ever gone to college. I said, what does that mean? And so she figured out right there she had about the dumbest guy in line that day. And she said, okay, what were you good at in high school? And I said, mechanical drawing. I mean, what kid isn't good in mechanical drawing in high school? Now, back then, every school had shop classes, drafting, metal shop, wood shop, and all that kind of stuff. And so I was really good in mechanical drawing. And so she said, all right, so why don't we put you into the industrial arts program? And the industrial arts was where you learn, things that work for industry and stuff. And I said, okay, that sounds okay to me. And so then she said, now, what are you going to minor in? And I stood there and I said, what does that mean? And I, throughout eternity, I will never, ever, ever forget the look on her face and the sounds of her words when she said, real smugly and sarcastically, what else were you good at in high school? Well, guess what? First thing came to mind was PE. I mean, who's not good in PE in high school? And so she said, all right, let's do this. Let's put you into physical education as a major. And I said, okay, sounds good to me. I had no idea what was ahead. So then she said, all right, now we've got two programs. We got the liberal arts program, and it was a teacher's education school. She said, we have a liberal arts education program, and we have an education program for people that want to be teachers. And she said, what would you rather get signed up into? And I said, I don't know, And she said, well, right now they need teachers. And so I said, okay, that sounds good. That's how I got my major, my minor, and that's how I picked my program in college. And that's only the beginning. Stay tuned. There's more stories to come about going to college. I did go, and there's the wind blowing my little weather vane. Thank you for watching, and God bless.